And we're live.
Okay, today is Thursday, July 27th, and this is a joint policy and curriculum and learning committee meeting. And the meeting is called to order at 5:30 sharp. And has the meeting been properly hosted
Yes.
for both curriculum and?
It's just one joint. We posted it joint.
So, okay, and so minutes approval, I think we're gonna have to do two separate ones for policy.
Nope, it's a joint one again.
Oh,
Because we're approving
a
a joint,
That's right,
correct.
that's right.
Yeah, they're joint.
Alright, I need a motion to approve the minutes from
I'll
the
motion.
I'll second.
motion by Sarah Wren and second by Peter Hopper, all those in favor?
Aye.
Alright, I think our one and only topic for today is policies 361 and 871. The subsequent accessory.
Okay,
Okay, really spell out which one we're on, so I know, because I'm
so
Right, I know,
let's go, let everybody
like,
go
which
to
one on
what,
here,
everybody
too?
go to what I just gave you.
Oh, great.
An email?
Well, no, the packet I just handed out.
This one.
This one, okay, thank you.
This.
Never touch your packet until I say no.
That sounds very teacher.
So the packet I gave you,
Yes.
we're gonna start there. I asked you to have everything just because if this does move forward to the full board, we did kind of approve things
Mm-hmm.
from those that I then moved forward to make these a little clearer to read, but it looks like this. One of those harder to read squished over on the side, so it'll be red. Okay. So for these I did the track changes. So for policy 361, I accepted everything from last time. And that was the one that probably had the most highlighting and striking out. Because policy 361 was the one that originally contained curriculum, supplemental, and library. So now we got rid of the library a while ago. This time we got rid of the curriculum. And so we're down to just the supplemental in this policy. I don't think, even from last time, we have anything of real substance. So all we did was truly remove all of the regular curriculum language, get this to be just supplemental educational materials. I went with will throughout all of our documents for shall, will, we went with will. And then I just added in the gift section, just what the board policy for gifts is, since we've done it in other places. And then in the paragraph that talks about challenges, board policy, if something was just kind of dead-ended, I put what its title is. And other than that, we actually really didn't do much changing to this one.
I just had a question because I can't remember, I had it asterisk here, the audio visual, the original, and it's not now on the new. Did we discuss that? I can't remember why it was removed or. Because in this original one.
I think it was put, I think it was condensed into here.
I don't think it's called out, yeah.
But it was called out specifically on the virtual radio audio visual materials.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she also put on that. So I'm just wondering where.
I think it was condensed
Right,
into right here though.
Right,
Or
oh, I'm sorry.
For instance,
So,
in that second to last policy, or second to last paragraph there, it says with the digital electronic materials. Oh, and then we also have
policy,
Because
our.
Policy
Because the cross reference was policy 360, instructional use of audio visual.
Yes.
Because we updated that.
Yes,
That was updated
Yeah.
Oh, you know what?
previously.
It just didn't make the
Like,
cut.
yeah, so that's why I was like, I think we kept
Oh,
it,
we did
and
keep it,
so I
it didn't
didn't,
make the cut.
I remember putting asterisk there, meaning that I
It
think.
didn't let it make the cut.
Oh, okay.
Cause I just remember one of my high school students getting something regarding a movie that was being shown and a whole email to parents totally misconstrued all of the
Yeah,
things
you're
that were, you know,
policy.
it was a PG movie and the high school
They went
teacher
over and
was
over.
trying to get like, it said, the email said like, every movie has to be signed by a parent and, you know, so again, we had made some changes to that. I'm just saying, that's how I remember we made some
Policy
changes.
360.
'Cause I remember I
Okay.
got a little.
Yep, sorry,
Yeah,
nope,
well, I
that was
remember
supposed to say.
initiating.
It didn't make.
Okay, so we're putting that back
360 is
in.
getting it back in,
So
okay.
that's gonna,
yes.
okay, got it. That's what I have.
Okay.
Good.
Okay,
Oh, that's interesting.
anything else?
Little shawls and willows.
So we're gonna add the 360.
It should have been there, yeah.
So we're adding policy 360 back into.
The
Yeah,
reference
just
to
didn't
it.
make it over.
Yeah, the reference to it.
Okay, sorry about
So we
that.
have a pretty thorough policy on if you show like movies or other clips. So when something is better, we kick it into its better one. Okay. Okay, that was easy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wanna go out of order.
I'm so mad.
Okay,
Okay.
procedure 361. Okay, this one we need a little more work on. And we changed the title a little bit, because Amy and I added something on the last page that felt like it's not really selection anymore, it's how we communicate. And it's specific to how we communicate supplemental materials, even though we know that other policy work is going on, this still feels very specific to this. And so we just wanted to change the title to, I don't know, better reflect it.
I like it.
So that we know it contains the two. One of the notes that we had in the general criteria section was to reference the standards. So not only is it supporting and enriching the curriculum, it's aligning with the standards. And then I'll kick us to the page 2 and 3, and I'll go back to the other list. So for, we did a lot of talking about communicating this out. And so it definitely felt, in reviewing everything, that this seemed to be a secondary thing.
Okay.
With actual like book lists and reading list.
Yeah.
And in checking with the elementary schools, they just don't do that. So it just didn't feel like it applied as much. So they might do the thing where, you know, you have your book and there's like 20 minutes of free reading, you know, just to get that natural reading in. We're trying to work on, you know, comprehension or something or some skill set, but you're reading your own little book. The teacher isn't giving you this book list or these other things.
Okay.
But this is just what we threw out there for this meeting to talk about. And we kind of feel like this is the communication part of this
Right.
procedure now.
And that can be
Yeah.
like kind of cross
It's not
translate
really-
with the other, you know.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think we'll be working
We're
on
ahead
that
of the
other
curve.
communication policy too, so if anything ever has a better fit. But this is, we just wanna be really specific about supplemental materials because we heard a request and a need. And it's better to have it here. To me, the other communication policies are gonna be more general.
Right.
More general.
Very, yeah.
This is very specific.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is where people would look for it. And if it's someplace else too, great, you can say things in multiple places, but we're thinking secondary ELA reading lists, was where our issue is, middle and high school reading lists. Because they are not free reading, they are truly supplemental materials. They are being used as a part of the overall curriculum.
For a grade project,
For a grade,
for
for a
learning,
something.
yes.
It's not just, we have the free read in class. So this definitely, these lists are definitely true supplemental materials connected to the curriculum that are being chosen and given, chosen by the teacher and given to the students, connected to grades and projects. Okay, so these reading lists will be sent out to parents, guardians at the beginning of the school year or semester, you know, just high school, you know, you might not take it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Beginning of the year semester, as well as when any changes are made to the list. So, let's say I gave it, in September, then oops, I just realized, oh, we can't get that book anymore, or too many of the copies are trashed. So now I'm gonna add this book instead, I'm gonna send that book out to everybody as my update to the list. Anytime it happens. And then number 2, the secondary ELA reading list will have a disclaimer for each book which contains profanity, sexual content, and or sensitive topics. Now, one down, the idea of what is a sensitive topic, so I gave a couple of examples, I don't consider this exhaustive, but we're thinking sensitive topics at a secondary level. And I think we're used to seeing this now on TV and on social media or, you know, anything, those like warnings, you know, sensitive content.
DSM.
Yeah,
or
so
we'll have like a-
Graphic violence,
Mhm.
and like I said, this was just like thinking of things. Graphic violence, eating disorders, self-harm, addiction, abuse.
Oh.
So it
Yeah,
should
it's
go to
on the page.
page 3,
Oh.
like
Okay,
just the track
Oh,
change
yeah,
is always a little weird.
I didn't
So-
continue reading that.
No, yeah, it's okay.
We're already covering profanity by itself and sexual content. And so to me, sensitive was like that other stuff that is maybe considered more mature, difficult.
And parents then can be aware of maybe following up with the conversation at home and.
So that number 2 is excluding the 2 criteria that we have specifically delineated above in regards to the sexual content, explicit content, and also the profanity.
So
I just wanna make sure that that number 2,
So this is, so it still has to meet up here, but let's
Okay,
say
got it.
it does have a few
okay,
profanities that we've still deemed acceptable for that level, or it still has maybe some sexual content, but we didn't decide that it's too much for that level, or it's outside of the human growth and development idea or any of that, it's still gonna have a disclaimer.
Okay.
So,
I just wanna make sure that they understand that.
nope, okay, so, we'll do a better job.
Doing
Of
wording,
examples,
yeah,
you're
because
saying.
I think that could be like a loophole, right?
Yeah.
Since I'm
So no, it's
sure
still,
that I
you know,
have a
because
disclaimer, but
We can have some
See
profanity,
above.
yeah, so we can have,
Yes,
Like it has to be within these,
So I
in
think there's
addition to.
in addition to the
Yeah.
above.
correct,
Yes.
something to that effect, I wanna make sure that that's.
I'm thinking profanity, I'm thinking somewhere within the restrictions above.
Yeah, something to that effect, just to make sure
Because
that
we can still have some, you know, at the secondary level, we can have a little bit.
And then, yep, and limited with some,
Um,
as long as it stays within that
So
parameters.
bless you. So I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
that we're covering those 2, if there's still some that has made it through the cut, you'll still know. And then there are these other things that maybe kids should know too.
Okay.
Like if you have an eating disorder that you're getting treatment for, you probably shouldn't read a book about eating disorders, right? Like you kinda know that.
So, I mean, like some of the books, yeah, like, you know, there's trafficking in them, the cutting, there's self-harm.
So you kinda want addiction and abuse to try to like, abuse being a bigger word,
Yeah, abuse,
before I had like 20 words.
I know.
Yeah, so just trying to keep it general.
Yeah.
We'll have conversations with,
Self-harm covers a lot though. Yeah.
right, so I think this gets the point across.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Of
I
Red
did.
flags
the
it if
concern,
that's
yes.
in the book and gives parents the opportunity to then follow up at home.
So, can we put in there, well, I have a few, here we go.
No, and then number 3, so we'll just do number 3, any additional secondary reading materials which will be used beyond 2 class periods will be noticed to parents or guardians. So you might always have that like article that was in the newspaper, right, or I don't know, something like that.
I like it.
If they're gonna use
Oh,
something
it's-
that's really becoming a larger topic,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna have them notice that out. But like I taught social studies, okay, so there might be something, I know, I love social studies. So there, you know, you're teaching history, but what if what you're teaching kind of almost still just happened in the news? You know, you're like, oh my gosh, that's great, so we can talk about how, you know, we still have real life, or you're teaching civics, or you're teaching, you know,
Strings are repeating itself, yeah.
I mean, I did this great Bill of Rights project where they had to find all of the 10 amendments happening live today out in the world and do a project on it. So, you know, like,
Yeah, that's good teaching.
I love them. That's how I learned them all really well too. That's how I really got them in there too. So, you know, there are definitely places where you might just be bringing in a quick thing. A quick thing, it's not a book, it's not a novel, it doesn't have any of this kind of stuff. It was in the newspaper, which is written at a 6th grade level. So we don't want everything, I'm just telling you, like we can't have everything being noticed.
Yeah.
But we wanna be reasonable that if you're really gonna start having like multi-class discussions on it, it probably is now triggering that level of notice. If it's gonna be just a small part of your class period, then I don't think it needs to be that if it's the short article.
I like
Just real quick on page 2, I saw a hyphen actually.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows that stupid thing that I
Wow.
keep forgetting, no, it's an old strike through.
Yeah,
Oh.
sorry. And then I just saw a
Sometimes those things
space,
like don't disappear,
I
right?
think you would align it, but there's an extra space.
I'm sorry, I just.
No, I didn't format, so,
Okay, you need a
so,
Good catch.
so some of these lines that you see here mean that there's like a hidden formatting.
Okay,
So,
Yeah,
okay.
couple thoughts about that communication. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Jen. So can we, I'm just throwing it out there. So they'll communicate the materials to the students, I mean, to the parents, but can we add something like, and this might be too in the weeds, I don't know, with instructions on opting out if they wish, you know, so they'll not only inform.
Yes, and that's already built into our practice
The other-
and our process, our policy
Yeah,
around controversial issues.
Right, I
That's
know
built
that,
into the
but I'm
policy,
saying
but
spell it
it's-
out for the parents,
Yes, and we
yeah.
typically do,
Okay,
so.
Here's the reading
I
list,
think
here's
that
how
should
to opt out.
Yeah.
But
That should
I will
actually come in the
add that in.
communication to the parent. You don't have to
Let's
have it in
put
the policy per se.
well, this is procedure,
Well,
So-
but
Oh,
we
You
can
put it in
include it in
Yeah,
there, yeah,
I
we
mean,
can
No, I'm just
give
gonna
them
put it
the
in there.
So
opportunity.
just reference that.
Just referencing the, yeah, the policy
Referencing that
and that they
policy.
can opt out, but that they you know, I mean, I'm just saying that offer that next level because, yeah.
so we'll put that in number one.
And then
Easy for them.
another thought, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
No, we'll put that into number one, so it's there.
No.
Yeah, no,
That's fine,
I'm
that's
here to
great.
And the
listen.
procedure number 1, you wanna add that?
So
Sure.
So the communication supplemental material prior to use in number one, where we're saying you're gonna send the list, we're also going to say that it must include the opt-out
Yeah,
procedure.
exactly,
That
like just to spell it out a little bit more,
Yeah.
for a parent who's like, I don't feel comfortable with this, or I wanna question it, and then they might not agree with it, but then to know that they can take that step. I think some parents are hesitant to, you know, cross
Some actually don't even know.
and or feel like they're making waves or something like that. So can we also add to, and this might, and this is based off of personal experience.
Okay.
My daughter was getting paper copies, paper permission slips, and would sign them herself from the class for like the audiovisual. And so she signed them herself. I'm like, oh, because it came upon, I saw one of the books that she was going to be reading. I'm like, I'm not so sure I agree with that. She's like, well, and her face turned bright red. And I'm like, so I said, I never got any communication, you know, I'm gonna bring this up and blah, blah, blah. Well, Mom, I'm like, so it came out that she signed it.
In high
And it
school,
was
they
only
sent
in paper.
They
Mhm.
sent it in.
Yes,
Because I
yes.
remember
Well, that's why I
like
say
a
we need
Google
to spell it out.
I would give
I know,
them-
but it was in paper.
What class was that?
I don't know if I should say, but.
You can tell me later.
But I'm just saying, like, you know, at that level, it should be electronic to the parent.
Yeah, so now that I think Amy's here in
Because I
this
would think
position,
elementary would be.
Yeah.
I do have the Google Doc that seems to have been successful, that I think we can share as the preferred.
Perfect, I
Well,
would
and I
love
think
a great
even
example.
communication wise in our.
Listen to you. That was
There's a running joke
that
about me and
was an
Google Docs.
inside
Every
Cause I'm a Google,
I
I'm a
missed it.
Google person.
I missed
I have
Yes,
a-
good,
we
other
have a Google-
districts, this is very common to
Yeah.
use a Google process to allow parents to do it. It's actually baked into
Yeah.
the whole
That's nice.
system.
Well, I mean,
And I don't like Google
I mean, I
Docs.
then come to find out from my other daughter, oh yeah, I signed a lot of stuff for you too.
It's not Google Docs,
How
it's Google
helpful
Forms.
is
That's great. So it's all in high school.
It
I'm like,
is the high
oh,
school
well, it's
experience.
paper, I'm like, oh.
Is my mom listening? I signed my mom's name.
I had my mom's signature
My
down
dad's
pat.
signature was too hard.
Yeah.
I say-
We used to have to do the paper notes, you know, I mean, to get excused.
No,
Right,
so
we
I do
did
have a
that
Google
electronic.
Doc
Do you want me
that a
to?
teacher created, and I think it was successful and it worked really well,
Yes.
and it also just creates an easy way to
You want
keep,
me just to make it for you?
no, the teachers are gonna make it themselves.
They
Okay.
are, they're gonna do a great job.
But we're gonna show them
Try
the
to help.
example, it
Yes.
worked out really well,
I got two
parents
more,
seemed
two
very
more
happy about
scenarios.
it. So I think now that Amy's in the position,
I get it.
because it really came up during our work on policy 360.
Yep.
At like middle of the year last year. And so I think now that we can
Yeah.
start a year fresh, we can roll it out better
Yeah,
with,
It was great
Yeah.
because it was also like a reminder too, if you happen to forget,
yes.
I'll send you an email saying, oh, I just wanna let you know that.
that's why I don't even know
You
if we
didn't do
said
it.
electronic at the secondary level, you know? I'm like, oh, I should have.
I don't, I,
So
yeah, I don't.
this is all it would look like. You create a Google form.
Oh, yeah, we know,
Yeah.
we're familiar.
Yeah, some teachers are using them, no, some teachers
Alright.
are using them and the ladies brought me the examples from teachers.
That was more for,
Not me,
Yeah.
mine was already signed and handed in.
I
Um,
need Blair's to use Google Docs. I understand.
So I have another thought
Right.
about the communication of the curriculum. Can we put it, I think we talked about this, can we list it somewhere else? Because I've seen other schools that post it on their like library site, like all the curriculum for ninth grade English, let's say, or, you know,
So talk to me more about what you mean about by curriculum.
well, I guess, I'm sorry, like the books they're reading in class, like ELA
Okay, so
books.
reading
Yeah,
books.
I think it's mostly ELA that I've seen. I don't know why, like Sussex does it, it's on their library site. On their library site though, I don't know if we wanna put it somewhere else or if we wanna think about this or what.
By grade level.
But I mean, like, for example, like if I got that flyer or electronic communication and then it would say all the books and then it's gone. So what if I wanted to kind of reference it and see, oh, what are they, I mean, I know I can ask my kid.
Yeah, it's
maybe
in
they'll-
school.
Maybe I can pull it out of them if I find them and hunt them down, but you know, just another reference point to communicate that curriculum. Or I guess we gotta talk
So
about that.
let me talk with our curriculum chairs a little bit and get some more information. Because one of the things I don't know being new is how frequently those lists change.
Yeah,
I know as we're doing some curriculum revision,
true.
you know, rolling out the standards again this year and looking at some materials, particularly at middle.
Mhm.
You know, I probably won't be looking at new high school materials this year. You know, just how frequently those choice lists for various reasons shift slightly.
Yeah,
I would be concerned about
keeping it
having a
up to-
mismatch and
Yeah.
being able to effectively keep it up
Yeah.
to date. But can I make that as a note, like, and
Yeah, I
something
mean,
to
it's
look into?
just something
Yeah.
I've
Are we
seen.
talking about the supplemental curriculum or are we talking about curriculum?
I don't
Good
think
point,
so.
good point,
I
you're
think we
right.
switched,
I
right?
think she
Yeah.
pivoted.
Well, you're right, cause it, I mean,
Yeah, no, we did.
that is more core curriculum,
That is more core
right? Like if
curriculum.
it's a
Yes,
book
you're
you're
right.
reading in class, so
You're
I'm
right.
sorry, yeah,
That's coming.
Okay.
okay, yeah,
That's coming.
I'll pin that one.
Leah could only handle one topic at a time.
Yeah. Sorry.
So
I got one more.
core curriculum would switch less often.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
so
that's what I-
that's a
I'm-
piece
yeah,
that when
sorry.
we do that curriculum development piece
We-
we
I
can
got
do.
curriculum
Or
swirling in my head.
if they just develop their list that goes out to parents and you're just kind of clicking on the link and the link goes to that same list, they only update in one place.
I think if we're Google Docking these lists and then parents are actively opting in and out on those lists, you'll always have it.
Yeah,
You'll
Yeah.
always have
oh,
it.
It'll
access
just
to
be
it,
an
like
active
you send it,
list.
yeah.
You'll always have it.
And then, I don't know, this is another scenario, what if the supplemental material, like the ELA, like a reading list or a supplemental material that, like they take a book out of their classroom library and read it? Is that a scenario?
Then that would be listed
So
though,
then how is
that would
that?
still be listed.
Where?
I was gonna say at seven
in
through
the
12
library.
for the
don't
purpose of
want
an
it in the-
assignment. I
Yeah.
think there has been, I'm not aware of much of that.
Yeah,
I think but I think that's an opportunity for free reading, similar to
Yeah.
the library. I think where probably kids are doing more with classroom library, particularly for choice or
Yeah.
small group, is at elementary.
Yeah,
Well, and we talked about this at the last meeting too, where that would fall under that supplemental materials policy, and then the teachers, you know, scan their collection in their classroom and be like, okay, these follow the guidelines of being appropriate to be in the classroom.
We really haven't had information coming to us about elementary school books.
not a
We
ton.
really have had 99.9%
Oh, yeah.
coming out of the middle and high school.
And then
And I would guess probably later in February.
So so you know, we're bringing these as recommendations, okay, you guys can have the final say on what you want, it's just, we wanna make sure.
Right.
And for me, this is kind of like, I don't want us to go from 0 to 100.
No, I know.
I wanna see if 0 to 25 gets us all of our goals met.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, kind of talking about cataloging an entire classroom library kind of feels like it's gonna raise stress and anxiety on every classroom teacher to maybe a level we don't need, because we haven't actually identified a problem there yet.
Maybe we set a few targets, or
Well-
like what are we trying to achieve with what is right in front of us,
Mhm.
meaning this here?
Yeah, so
Not anything that's not here, and is that what we're looking for? Like looking at, like what is the end result, and is that target, is that, I mean, for a short term, then set a new target if we need to. But just, it's a policy linked, I mean, which is board work, no question about it. So the goal is X, and we review it on this day, or in October, November.
it is a procedure, so it actually only has to come back to committee.
Right.
Only policies go to the full board.
Yeah.
And
Right.
also
So-
too, Chris, I think I'm
Yes.
trying to think back, because my girls were like bookworms. I don't remember them grabbing a book in the classroom. I'm just telling you because at that level.
I
think they just go down to
I
the
just tossed
library.
that out there.
They
yeah.
go to the library.
Well, I mean,
they
some of the
books,
classrooms are-
so.
ELA, they, significant libraries in there.
So then that's
Or are
what
they,
like
or
these-
are they these books
Yeah,
on the
that's what I'm
list?
wondering.
I think it's a combination, and
Okay.
so
I
I
don't know.
wonder
I don't
if
know.
the conversation isn't as we roll this out,
Yeah.
then as you're thinking about your classroom library,
Mhm.
we need to be thinking about these parameters
Yeah.
and taking a critical look at your
Yeah.
classroom library.
Yeah.
Because that's a conversation I have not had with teachers,
Yeah.
and if we have that conversation
Okay.
and then monitor
Feedback.
any
and-
concerns that come
yeah.
up, and then we can come back to the table and address that differently. But
Or could we just even address it such that if a student does grab a book from the classroom library, it just gets documented and the parent made aware of,
How is that?
right?
Well, they'll be checking it out in the classroom
Yeah.
anyways, I mean, if there's a.
Well, I mean, then that
they're
would.
not cataloged,
It's not gonna be,
so-
an easy system.
That's not a,
That's not
that's
gonna
not a
be easy.
system that's established, that's something that would have to be, that's why I'm bringing up
Communicate, yeah.
like
Yeah, it's-
targets.
So that, yeah,
Okay,
you were bringing up what?
Well, I'm bringing up targets and goals, so
Yeah.
that we can bring it back to procedures, you know, to this committee and say,
That's a good point.
alright, we've made these
Yeah.
changes that
Yeah.
are say 0 to 25 or 0 to 40. Maybe that is accomplishing the goals that we're looking for.
Yeah,
Let's just measure it, let's target it, let's set a date, look at whatever changes we're looking at. But also, we wanna keep
refining it.
refining it and bringing it back, maybe it is exactly what we're looking for.
I-
Maybe there is,
And that
And
one,
and like, and I like that, and like to your comment too, Leah, like we don't know how much of it is a problem. So like if, once we start like diving in a little bit more, how much is being weeded?
but also what was just mentioned is doable, but that'd be like 0 to 100, that's might be what we need to do, meaning somebody checks out a book, it's clocked and, I mean, I'm not saying that that's what we're doing today, I'm not suggesting that. But I'm saying that might be a measure we look at in the
Mhm.
future, I don't know, yes, no, but it's important for our work, meaning administrators, to look at it and say, okay, we've established this,
Mhm.
this is an improvement.
Mhm.
How do we measure that? And so we can bring that back to you.
Okay.
And say that we're succeeding or we're not quite where we wanna be.
Can I ask a question? I know I'm not really a committee member, but so if teachers, whether this is middle school or high school, I'm not talking about elementary school, but
Mhm.
like, okay, you've got like your book club books, you know, where you're like, you know, and the ones that are part of,
Supplemental.
yeah, supplement.
Those have been
So
purchases.
why do teachers have their own personal
Mhm.
library in their classroom when we have at both schools a library and we have a public library in
Mhm.
Menominee Falls, and like what is the purpose of a teacher having their own little library for students to check books out of anyway? And again, I
Yeah.
love books, I
And I would
love
think if they
reading, I
took it
read a
out,
lot,
the
but
teacher
I'm
would
just,
wanna know,
like,
and they
what
do
is
have
the
to check
school
out.
system?
Some
They
do.
have to, cause they have to get them back,
So,
right?
so I can speak to this a little bit
That's
from
what
a
I'm saying.
principal's perspective, but then also, cause we talked a little bit
Yeah,
about
we
this
did.
today. Early on in a pre-meeting, unscheduled meeting, but a good meeting, about this, we actually hit right on this point that, you know, when I was running, you know, a decent sized high school, this started to happen to the standpoint of, all right, the English teachers weren't even going to libraries anymore. You know, nice beautiful library we just built,
Yeah,
brand new.
true.
And, you know, and I was part of that as a principal, looking at books that they wanted to bring in. But the answer to the question is that some of the, you know, School of Education learning about how to be a teacher from a pedagogical and a learning perspective was, well, there's a lot of different books that really are getting to the same targets and learning targets. Like somebody might be offended by the Odyssey. I don't know why, I'm not, I love the Odyssey, but you might be able to do the Iliad and get the same thing. Some people like Machiavelli, but other people that's a little rough, so we'll stick with the Odyssey, it's a little simpler. And you can get same core concepts out of each one. So that's like the teaching part of it, I think that's the why from a building, that's why I signed off on it when I was a principal. That being said, it's a good discussion to look at what's there as well, and to make sure that, you know, like some of the discussions we had, and also good discussions we had this morning with Amy and I, that we have to be aware of what's present there as well. Cause that's, cause it is it becomes part of core curriculum.
Yeah, I
Cause
mean,
supplement,
it-
it becomes
well-
part of, it does
Yeah.
become part of core curriculum,
Yeah.
where when I was coming through and teaching, I would have a textbook, and then I would have a couple supplemental books, and everybody had the same 2 supplemental books.
Right.
Now granted, that's 20-some years ago and 2 different era, but
And you're saying that's that book that they were reading as a class?
right, there were a couple supplemental
Yeah.
books. Now, some of that has changed in schools of education about how to achieve the same ends,
Okay,
to achieve the same learning.
gotcha.
And I'm not saying that that's wrong, I
Yeah.
think there's some validity to that.
Yeah.
That just because I like to read certain books, you know, there might be other books that get to the same level of reading. Like Romeo and Juliet, right?
Yeah.
Some people don't like that sort of
Genre.
literature, genre, that it's not, you know, but they could read To Kill a Mockingbird and not have an issue with it.
Mhm.
So, and some of the same core concepts come out of both books.
Right.
You know, even though one deals with a harsh topic, meaning suicide.
Mhm.
You know, Romeo and Juliet, there's a suicide component. So to be aware of that in terms of supplemental materials, cause you may need to have people opt out. We did. When I was principal, and 9th graders at Romeo and Juliet, we had people opt out all the time. And not because of, I don't think it was necessarily controversial, but because of that topic. You know, and how it affects people differently.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why we have evolved our practice to be more choice within a list. Because it allows kids to choose based on interest, it allows teachers to help have different reading levels if appropriate,
Yeah.
or, you know, not everybody has to read the same thing, they might not be ready for it for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, true.
And I think our reading specialists, if they were here, would say that students of all ages need to be in print-rich, you know, and literature-rich environments as often as possible, so that they, if it's not an appropriate time, don't have to trek down to the library to get a book to read. And so that's why teachers developed their classroom libraries, so that there are
I think
lots
there's
of
more
options for kids.
information though at the
The secondary level, yeah, I think,
One
Like,
thing,
I think the ELA teacher might have a more robust
Right.
classroom library,
yeah,
but I don't think you're seeing it in other, like a lot of other content areas.
Mhm.
And so I'm thinking in 361, it says materials included, and it just talks about all these things. What if we just actually say classroom libraries, and then maybe that helps us then have this conversation connected to the conversation about a critical look at your classroom library as we roll out this policy and
Right.
procedure, and then we add this as our talking points around it. And so we've actually just said classroom library, not just books, like whatever those books are, like
Yeah.
actually put it in there, in the list.
I think it's
I like
smart,
it. Yeah,
that's
that's a
smart.
good idea.
And then,
I like it too.
So a separate section, you mean?
no,
Or-
like it's, like there's this like laundry list
Yeah.
on policy 360 of things.
Oh,
And
gotcha.
technically, some of those things could be in your classroom library,
Okay, yeah.
but I feel like we should say classroom library,
Yeah.
so people
That's what
Spell it out.
understand
yeah.
That's
that it's not just
Okay.
your book list.
That's smart.
It's also your classroom library, because quite honestly, I saw middle and high school and I had books, like Civil War history, or, you know, like I just had these, like, nobody took them. But I had all these books, I had all these books that were in like my field. I don't think I ever would, and I call it my classroom library, like they could have it, or they use it for research. I would have never considered that a supplemental material, quite honestly, because
You weren't
because it's
teaching
just-
from it.
cause I wasn't teaching from it.
Sorry.
I hardly thought about it, but every once in a while, I had that kid that like loved some part of history so much,
Oh,
that I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, take
And they're
it,
like savants with
Like,
it, they
take
know
it.
all the facts.
take it home, read it, whatever you wanna do with it. But it would have never crossed my mind, in an honest, innocent way, that this policy would have applied to that little shelf of books,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have considered myself
That's a really good point.
bringing them
Uh-huh.
in. But yeah, a kid could have grabbed it, and I probably would have never told their parent.
Right.
And they probably told their parent when they took it home, but.
Right.
So I just wanna make sure, putting that in there, now there's no question, and a teacher will know, and we can bring it in the talking points and point to it. Because I really do think most of us wouldn't consider that shelf supplemental, because we're not engaging with it in the way that feels like it's curricular.
Yeah, and the way supplemental materials that I have seen, just to frame it in a way that I think perhaps is occurring in some places, is that the entire class has an option to X amount of books
Mhm.
inside of the curriculum. That is supplemental materials. You know,
Yeah.
so all of these books sit here, it's not the shelf that you're talking, in other words, the personal shelf. Like I have a personal shelf of books. I also would be happy to have people read and have had people read them. But that's different than books that are available to all.
Right.
That's supplemental, because it's part of the,
Right.
right?
The teaching.
Yeah, the teaching, so
So that recommended 8th grade list, would you consider that supplemental?
Well, that's supplemental, that's for
Yeah.
sure supplemental,
'Cause
it's
but once we talk
instructional.
classroom libraries,
there's clarity.
I feel
Yeah.
like there could be a jump
Yeah, I know.
for a teacher
It's gonna be a
to eyeball that as supplemental, because I'll just be honest, like, mine were just there. I didn't really like think about them,
Mhm.
and I had no intention of pulling them in.
Yeah,
But if a kid wanted to take one, I wouldn't have said no.
right.
So I
Like they're being
think
held
adding,
captive.
they were not being held captive, they were probably
free to
minding
go.
not their business over there. But I think just putting the words in, we've
Yeah.
taken,
I agree.
we've taken out that people didn't know, and I feel like you could honestly not make that leap.
I agree.
That's fair.
I agree.
If you've been in a classroom for 20 years and that shelf's been there,
I
You're not thinking
I would
about
not
it.
have made the leap until I spent quality time with these children.
I agree.
perfect.
Well, on a parent's side, you know, that story in regards to library, because, you know, my girls are like voracious readers. And so when they went through an assigned book, they would read a book within a day or two, so that they had extra books in the classroom. And they would bring it home and
Yeah.
read it, so they read it like 3 times as fast as another one. So when they're done,
Right.
there's other books available for them to read, so that's how it was utilized, but I knew
Ease
the
of
books. I knew the ones that they brought home, so I
I think it's just improving awareness of
I think it's just more
the
awareness.
books that they're different now. We didn't have these issues 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It just creates more awareness
Mhm.
on these books. Like, we didn't have these issues, I don't believe, like 15 years ago, or like people like having concerns about excessive profanity or explicit information. I mean, I just discovered it, my daughter was a book sent home with her, my oldest daughter, when she was younger, 5th grade. The back of the book, I was like, huh? And I don't even think, I think it was just an innocent mistake from the teacher. He had this in the classroom in his library, but he was thinning out his library and handing out books. And I'm like, you can read this when you're 18.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even, like, I mean, maybe not 18, maybe 16, but it was just not for a 5th grader. You know what I mean? So, but I have more on my list. I wanted to ask about the front, because we talked about the.
Yep, nope, I was gonna come back to
Leah's
that.
already,
I just
Leah's
said,
already for.
so let's just go to the other stuff that'll be easier, 'cause I'm gonna explain myself, and then you are all free to
Okay.
disagree.
It's
All
not
right.
just you.
I'll explain for us. I
Okay.
mean, I don't wanna hold you to all the words that might come out of my
So
mouth.
I'll decide if
Uh-oh.
you spoke for us later.
Okay.
So, I went last time and this time
Mhm.
to every single one of these things.
Okay.
And my pushback on Book Looks
Mhm.
is that it is very different from the other ones. Now, I did throw in the not limited to, so people didn't feel that they couldn't go elsewhere, and if people do wanna go elsewhere, they can.
Mhm.
And I think for us, these policies and procedures are actually written for district staff to comply with. And so while they are good reference places for parents, maybe, or the community to look at things, this is what we're holding our staff to, and so the audience for this are staff.
Okay.
And so I think Book Looks contains a lot of the stuff in a very specific way that you're concerned about, and I completely understand that, and I poked around a lot.
Mhm.
I think one of the main, well, there's a few main differences. The who we are is just concerned parents. When you go to the other sites and you go to our staff, they list the pictures, name, email, contact number, position, title, and location of all of their staff people, okay? And so now I can track that back. They're also all nonprofit organizations. This is an LLC, which means that, rightly so,
Do the
these can-
teachers have access to all these, or do the teachers actually look through, or
So
do
they
we
have-
have
so they have access to all of them.
subscriptions to all these
Oh, they're
too?
free,
Oh,
they're all
the Common Sense
nonprofits.
Media you gotta pay for.
No, it's free.
I have to pay for it. I get 3 a month. If I don't pay for it now, but you get 3 books a month to
Oh,
look up.
well, maybe if you're got our school email address, you free, I don't know,
Oh.
I
Okay.
clicked
Well, maybe,
on.
I haven't seen us pay for a subscription for it, but I
No, we don't
know
pay for it. I mean, I clicked on way
there's a
more,
subscription.
I clicked on way more than 3 things.
Really?
I mean, I
Okay.
clicked on like,
But then maybe we do have some sort of,
but maybe because I'm coming from a school district.
It could be.
yeah.
Our staff will
Okay, that's
have it.
aside, but yeah,
So one thing is, I don't know who these concerned parents are. I don't know, I don't know a name, I don't like know anything.
Yeah.
I do know they appear to be in Florida, cause that's what they put on their contact is Florida.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying people can't look at it.
Yeah.
It's just a concern that I have. And it's not a nonprofit,
mhm,
it is an LLC, which good for them, they protected themselves personally. But it's not a nonprofit, technically an LLC is for profit, I mean, not that they're making one, but
no,
then my other concern is that because they're not a nonprofit and they're this LLC of unnamed folks,
mhm,
they don't have the same ability to use the material and they have a lot of copyright restrictions connected to them. And so they actually have a very narrow ability to provide text from those things. And at any point, they could push that copyright issue. Whereas those nonprofits have this educational nonprofit ability with the makers.
Mhm.
They also talk about not wanting any lawyers connected to their work. And then they do talk about the Miller test and that they don't use the Miller test. They probably can't use the Miller test because they're all in Florida and the Miller test contains a component where, and this is an area that does kind of help us, is that the Miller test has the components of what is obscenity and the third component is local. So what is appropriate in Florida is, may or may not be the same as New York, as Wisconsin, as California. And so, you know, I don't know how they're connecting their work. They're saying they're using Miller, but not, but technically they can only be giving you information in a legal way for Florida. I'm not really even sure they're doing that, but if we wanna say we're using this as a resource that is legally compliant to the Miller case, which goes all the way back to the 70s and some guy who was like kind of a creeper to his mom, but
Wow.
it really has nothing to do with books, but the obscenity part has lasted since 1973. Local control,
Okay.
yeah, local control. The other sites as more national nonprofits make me feel a little more comfortable. So, those are my concerns. I absolutely think people can go there.
Mhm.
If parents wanna share this information with each other, that's great. If teachers wanna go there, EAs, directors, whomever, I think they can. It's just that we're not affiliated with any of these groups, but we absolutely communicate with them and we try to align our missions and values. So like, it's just not bringing the neutrality that I'm hoping for in a district policy and procedure. I looked at it, I thought, hey, this is helpful to have the word count. I mean, it is, I'm not gonna deny that. I just feel that I can't legally track it back enough in my mind to put it in a district policy or procedure. How it gets messaged out there to people otherwise, I don't mind. That's my concern.
Well, that site is the only one I know of that deals in raw, like data, raw citations, profanity count. So that's just the only reasoning I was thinking, why? Because if a teacher didn't fully read the book, they wouldn't know how much profanity would be in one. So one
So-
example is,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
there's a book in 8th grade with 28 swear words, and they're not kind. And on Common Sense Media, it's considered a little profanity. And recommending age 10 plus. And it says some cursing and coarse language. And there's other content in it too. I don't need to get into it. So I'm just thinking of it as like a little reference point, you know, like how much is in this book? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to grapple,
The question I
reconcile
have
this.
too is if we have it worded that says may include, but not limited to, having book looks on that list is not binding the staff to having to use it though either.
But anything on here, we're technically saying we are verifying as a reputable professional source. And I'm not saying it doesn't have value.
Right.
I'm not sure it reaches that level of threshold for an educational resource. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I just see it as a contradiction. You know, we have these kids fill out a form for permission for a PG-13 movie that has only 2 F-bombs max in a movie, technically, right? We've determined that. And then yet it'll say little profanity. And I
For
know
age
a book is different. I know there's literary, you know, You know, and there can be emphasis and content, but, you know, I'm just trying to reconcile this a little bit,
Yeah.
because we're not saying that the teacher has had to read a book either. So I guess help
Well, I
me
think
work this
typically
out.
they have,
Yeah.
or they have, you know, are.
Not 36 books
No,
on
I
a book
agree,
list
and that is
for
a,
4 units. I mean,
that is a
you have a seventh
conversation we
grader.
need
I know.
to continue to have, that somebody on the team has read it, cause there are multiple teachers at each grade level. And
Okay.
so as they're working with it, then they become familiar with the book.
So
I
I
100%
think we also have some work
agree.
to do on these lists, okay?
Yeah,
Like,
and we
are.
I'm sorry,
we
I
talked
know,
about
but I'm
that
like,
and
this is my
we
reference point.
And we
Yeah.
talked about this today, about the further work on the list over the course of time. So
Yeah.
absolutely, the communication in this policy and procedure are the first steps.
Mhm.
And then we've kind of got a two-pronged approach as we're unpacking our standards and doing our standards work this year. Because I think we both agree there's
Yeah.
work to do on
Yeah.
these lists,
And
all three of us.
I'm glad, like I
Yeah.
know we have common ground. We
Yeah.
want
We do,
we want high quality literature for these kids, right?
we do.
So, I mean,
So I guess for me, I'm not really so hung up on book looks. I'm
right,
So my question is to the teachers. So apparently this was what was available for the teachers and they chose the 36 books. One I'm pulling has almost 40 swear words.
Yeah.
So it becomes subjective, you see? And so now when we've delineated it in our policy that we have, you know, we pretty much say, was it where is it? You know, no prevent, limited from having
yeah.
some. So we
Yeah.
already have it here in
Yeah.
writing, so
Well,
how
I-
am I going to get the teachers to understand
Yeah.
if they don't have like, you know, reference?
'Cause someone
And again, I'm
well,
not
what's the
saying
reference
that,
point?
But how are they
And I-
going to use
I-
that?
I think I said it with library books. There comes a point in which some things just fall by the wayside.
yeah,
And they are not a priority.
Yeah.
They are not a priority. And I,
these were added.
literally my whole career has been around enforcing policy and procedure at work, okay? So it pains me a little bit to say it, but I think we all know that in life, there are some rules that we follow with fidelity, and there are some rules that we feel apply sometimes, and there are some rules we never seem to follow because nobody seems to care.
Well, I think the publishers and the award, people given the awards have, I mean,
Oh, they care, but I'm just saying
but I
like,
mean, have something to do with
I think
this
at some
and pulling
point,
the wool over
I
people's
think
eyes.
at some point in the district, these policies really weren't being referenced for
Nope.
probably 10, 15 years in any real meaningful way.
Mhm.
People bought books, I don't think they gave a lot of thought to it.
Well, they got worse and worse,
So
in my
your thought
opinion,
is
in my
bringing
opinion.
this back up to the forefront.
So kind of like with library books,
now
Yes.
brings
we
it back to
have
their
a
attention.
significant rollout to do with library books and with supplemental materials, cause they'll be done. Curriculum will be a little later, but I think we have a significant rollout to do of
Mhm.
bringing a few significant concerns of the community and parents to the forefront
Mhm.
and working with staff to be diligent and applying these with fidelity. I don't think people wanted to upset parents or wanted to upset the community. I think it's like driving. When I was going 40, and all of a sudden I was going 60. You know, like, I didn't mean to break the speed limit, it just was kind of happening over
No,
time.
and there was nothing, like, we've talked about this before, nothing, no ill will,
No.
nothing nefarious.
No.
Yeah.
It just happened, and like I said, the publishers,
Yes. And I think over the
these
last
book
10 to 15
reviewers have
years,
something to do with it.
books have changed. I mean, quite
Yeah.
honestly,
Right, and some people like this stuff,
when I was a
right?
teacher,
You
I
know?
won't even go back to when I was a teenager, but when I was a teacher, I don't recall YA romance being a thing. I don't remember my students,
Yeah, true.
because they talked to me about everything reading YA romance. Now, not only is it the #1 bestseller, but grown-ups are
Mhm.
reading it too.
Right.
And so, I think just,
Well, some
Yes.
grown-ups.
Yes.
well, Amy and I are gonna be doing a lot of it, if
That's
we're on the challenge committees, so.
That's
You
right.
might get involved, no, I'm kidding.
YA romance is coming your way, Mr. Munoz. So,
I know.
I really do think that over time, things have changed. And as people
I know.
who are in libraries, in reading, well, these are just the hot books, these are the books that kids
Mhm.
want. This is what they're interested in, this is what is topical, and I think it just happens. we have a lot of policies that we're working on that I truly feel that Amy and I are gonna have some significant work around the messaging and the re-application with fidelity of following them.
Mhm.
And so,
You're right.
I know I'm right.
spent a lot
I
of
spent 6
time-
months working with Nina and Chris
Yeah.
on library books.
She has spent
I
a
sent
significant
him
amount of time, yeah.
Your video from the board meeting, just
Oh.
for, you know.
Okay,
And I think it's just, for me, it's just making sure that the teachers are aware to probably scrutinize it a little bit better. And when it's a little bit more subjective, I get concerned because the teacher's point of view of what is appropriate, not appropriate for them is gonna be different than what my standards are for my child. And so I think I wanna be cognizant of that for different parents with different varying points of view.
So like, what does
So-
limited mean?
Right.
Like, what
Well-
does it mean? For example, there's a
It
book
will
in
be
8th
different for every
grade
teacher.
with
It's subjective.
16
It is subjective.
swear words, 8 F-bombs, and then there's another one, like I told you, like, and then like, you know, and then Common Sense Media uses the word some for profanity. So, you know, if 20 is a little
Mhm.
and, you know, like 80 is a lot, or I guess, I don't even know how they define
Yeah.
some.
so I think
It-
there is some subjectivity there,
Yeah.
because
Always will be.
legally, we still have those other parts that say it might have legitimate literary, artistic,
Right.
political, or whatever value.
Right,
So I think,
but that's where I thought
Unfortunately-
book looks was helpful.
yeah,
So can we compromise, like, for example, to avoid like, the 30, how many books are in, 36?
Per
Like, we
unit.
we
Per
scale
unit.
it down to the number of books?
Well, we're gonna have to, they're
That's
gonna have
going
to
to be
go
one
through
thing.
this litmus test
Or when
of-
we actually inform parents, because I think in the policy, we're supposed to say, a disclaimer, have that in there to the parents. Because
they-
that would be an easy.
But they're gonna have to
reference for a
say
parent.
excessive profanity, they're gonna have to really itemize it out. I mean, cause if you say some a little profanity, well, okay, I didn't know there was, I can't say it in
That's the onus on the
here.
parent though, I mean, you
Yeah,
have to take some responsibility and
You have
accountability as a
to,
parent.
you have to educate the parent what's in these books, we've all know we've been duped by these books. So
Yes.
you have to express that to them, how much is in these books.
So when we put the booklets in that communication to the parent, then the parents would use that
Oh, in the
as a
communication.
quick
Well, I don't
reference for
think you
them,
would, because
right,
that's not
or no?
the gold standard of what this policy wants to use.
Not in the policy
put it on
per
my
se, cause I understand your point of view of it, of actually
Yeah.
putting in the policy or like, I don't know.
so I was just hoping we could give it a chance, I just hoping we
So
could
I'm
give this a
just
chance.
trying to figure out how
And-
we determine limited profanity though, for middle school.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm trying to think like, okay, a whole book, 28 words. I don't know, I mean, is there like math there? I don't know how people
Like
decide like what's
percentage?
too many, but
But see,
like,
they won't know.
there might be like
But that shouldn't be
30,000
us
words.
to decide, I don't think, I think that should be like somehow referencing so a parent can pull it up themselves and go, well, 30 is too much for me.
Yeah.
Versus 50.
But not all the
But a
books are on there
teacher-
either.
If a teacher's gonna be told, you need to look at your list of
Yeah.
36 books per
Yeah.
unit
And read it.
and follow this policy, if you don't give them, and it basically says, limited profanity or some profanity, I mean, they're not gonna,
Mhm.
if they haven't already read the book, they're not gonna read them all and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this one had 40, really bad words in it, not
Mm.
just, the ones that my mom
No.
never considered a swear, but
Well, yeah, right.
right, but like
Sorry.
but really bad ones, and so I mean, I do,
I mean, but what if it
I'm
just
One
says
of them,
profanity?
one of them
I mean, what
is,
if the teacher doesn't put a qualifier on it, it just says it has profanity?
well, one of them is
Profanity.
488 for 8th grade,
I mean,
and 100 of them are F-bombs.
so
So,
I mean, I don't want to make
Excessive.
teachers do, make it seem like it's onerous, but at the same time, I want teachers to feel like they have a policy they can follow. And so if you're saying, we're gonna hold you responsible, and again, holding you responsible does not mean, you're, out of here or anything like that, okay? But, if we're gonna say, hey, this is something we take seriously and we want you to implement it and we
Live by
expect,
it.
yes, we expect that, but then we don't give them guidance to say that, so, I mean, I'm not saying book looks is the best
No.
source, but it certainly is the only source out there that gives you
The
like
raw.
the raw data of the
Sheets of raw
tally of the swear. I
So
mean, you
for
could,
example-
could you put it as, you know, an asterisk that says, you know, look at book looks, but you don't have to read the summary, just read the word count or.
But I think from my perspective, it is the word count in the context. And so,
Well, when you get 300, come on, Amy.
Well, I
You
mean,
can't like
I-
justify any of that, like.
Well, there's one bad character in the book, they just kept talking.
and it was an
actually, I find it interesting though that Common Sense Media says that's conversational
Well, that's what I'm saying.
something, and then
They're gonna-
another book
They're
that has a
gonna say it's
lot,
conversational.
kind of different kind of characters, it says it's like strong language, but it has way less I understand there's a literary piece to
Yeah,
that,
and
but
I don't wanna lose that piece of it because I think that's going to become really important as we're looking at library books and reconsideration, that we're making really thoughtful decisions all the way along. I don't know that we've had that conversation and that expectation of teachers in the past. So again, I don't know what that conversation's been. So I think, you know, like Leah said, we've really got an opportunity here to roll this out, have conversation with teachers and our teacher leaders, our principals about this and see where it takes us as a first step.
so, you know, Common Sense Media kind of glazes over and gives a nice little sanitized summary of what goes on in these books. So for example, one of these books, it's, I won't name it, but it talks about, there's some sex worker references in there. And it will say like, you know, he repeatedly tries to get someone to be a sex worker. And the details, so like this what Book Looks does for me. Okay, all right, so what, how much, how bad is it, you know? And then I go and look and it's, you know, he's talking about having a taste for girls and it gets more detailed, but so at least I have a good feel for it, you know what I mean? Like it gets me there, I can reference it and determine it quicker. You know, I can go hone in on the explicitness, the profanity. I mean, I know you have to look at the book as a whole, and that's what the other review sites are for, but I don't know.
I mean, if I was a teacher, I think, and I had a list
I think
of
it's a helpful
36
tool.
books, I was like, oh, okay, I gotta review these before the school year starts or whatever. I would wanna go to Book Looks and look up every one of them and be like, oh, there's only 8 swear words, oh, there's none here. This one has 200 swear words, I'd be like, okay.
Well, I think it might
would
be an
just be like a
eye-opener. I think
really
it might be an
quick
eye-opener.
And maybe you can say that when you're saying we're gonna weed them out this summer before the school year starts or whatever it is we're gonna do. You could verbally tell them, but that this is a great place to just check out your profanity or to get, you know, but and then going forward the actual policy, but I mean, again, I wanna make this as easy as possible for teachers so that they can work
So
on
they
all the
use
other
it,
things
yeah.
that
I'm
they
sure
wanna
they
do,
will.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
confident
there
they're
is the
not-
easiness of it.
And there's nothing preventing them from using that as a resource. But I do agree with Leah, for the purposes of this procedure and the professional, scholarly research, or scholarly review,
Mhm.
I don't think it reaches.
But
that
then this policy is no different than the library policy, other than the communication piece. So where are the guardrails in the classroom for the curriculum? You know,
So,
we were
okay,
told.
I'm just gonna tell you, I don't care if Book Looks is on there, like,
Yeah.
there are hills,
Mhm.
this isn't my hill.
To die
I
on.
work in HR.
I'll defer to HR.
So- I can put Book Looks on there.
Okay,
I can have all 10 of these things on here, it still doesn't mean anybody's gonna use any of
True.
them.
Right.
So,
but I mean,
I'm talking to
it
us
offers a profanity
as
count.
things that we're approving as a school district
Mhm.
and just making sure that we're choosing the best things that we're approving inside what are literally the official documents of the district. The teachers that we're gonna work with that are gonna do this with Fidelity are going to figure this out regardless of this list.
Yeah.
They might even have other things that they use, and I bet a bunch of teachers have read their lists. And I could even see some teachers thinking, well, this is what the kids want. This is what today's kids read. So we can put it in there. I want this to wrap up because we do wanna have it.
Yeah.
in time for the school year.
Okay.
So if we put it on there,
Mhm.
I'm still waking
I
up
mean-
tomorrow, perfectly fine.
I mean, we could, always,
It's just
and
my
see how
job.
it goes, like with the targets and goals, and see how it goes, how it floats,
But
Isn't one of the measurables is that we want less books with some of the substantial
Yeah.
things that we've talked about.
Well, I
and-
mean, we've talked about it, like, some solid literature where they're really learning the components and all the standards, and it's hitting all the right beats and.
So for me, I keep going back on the parents, right? Because yes, the teachers will have this as a standard and a guideline for them. But shouldn't a parent decide and be aware? And I think that is where book club should be
Well, they
You know,
can, I mean,
informed.
yeah,
to a parent.
gotcha.
Because again, I wouldn't know, and I would look at a list that a teacher, and Leah just said herself, doesn't even mean that they're even gonna use it.
Well, that's
So that doesn't guarantee that, so I think what's a little stopgap
Yeah.
is also to,
yes,
my emphasis
agree.
is more on informing the parents.
well,
That
I
here's an
think some
option,
review sites
here's-
should be
like the
given more
communication
than
part
book
of it,
clubs.
the communication part of it is to give them as a reference, if you want a quick guide, to look at that for yourself, because again, my opinion of all of the profanity and, explicit stuff is different than hers.
Yeah.
And then it's different for everybody else, so I just think that, I think the onus should be put on the parent, cause it's the parent's choice to decide how much, how little they want their
I
children
don't think it
exposed
should be
to.
only book looks, though.
And I
I
just
think it should
think-
be other, I've had
No, but I
emails from
understand
other
it,
parents,
but I-
from teachers who give
I
me
know.
different
But
sources.
like the book looks are, the conversation of just having it put here is not a safeguard to mean that they are going to use it, that's what I'm
So
trying to
what
say.
you're asking
Yeah.
for
What
is
I'm
that
trying
it
to
goes
say
on
is-
the email with the
Yeah.
book list.
Yeah, and
So
that's
it's
where my
another-
compromise would
it's
be,
another
because then
stopgap.
the teachers are already going to look at this, they're conscientious of it. But again, it's not a guarantee that they'll use it.
Right.
And so we can't assume, so I think informing parents, educating parents to
Yes.
have that
They
option.
need to be educated.
To actually look, and then they can decide for themselves if they want 30 F-bombs or not, or they think in the context of the
But we
story
can
is
have
fine
both.
versus 100 versus 80. I
We
just,
can
I
have
want,
both though.
I understand that, but I'm just saying my emphasis is
Parents
Right,
should
it
have
not
the
sound
right
like
to
you're arguing
choose
against it.
what
No,
they
I'm not,
want.
I'm just saying that I am, but it's not my emphasis is
Well, it
allowing
should be
parents
both.
to know.
Yeah.
So that's where I would like, because again, every parent is different in regards to where they would want their child to be.
I think it's a healthy
My-
compromise to make sure that we have parental,
Oh, yeah.
some sort of
Well, engagement,
advanced parental engagement
Do you see what
or
I'm saying?
I do,
awareness.
We're
you
trying
gotta
to
be
figure
in
it
the
out.
conversation,
I'm just
especially
thinking about
sensitive
asking
material.
teachers to send it out, then is still now asking our teachers to endorse book
Yeah.
books.
So I just think
What
it-
about
I'll put it on my Facebook
PTO
page.
or
What do you mean?
Like parent teacher
teach
newsletters and
That's-
Yeah.
the parent teacher groups.
They just
Do
take
we
a
have
look
a
at their
section
book
for
fairs,
that,
I'll tell you that.
That's a good question.
So I just don't know how we can inform parents, that's
Okay,
great.
we're gonna figure
My
out a
emphasis
way.
is let a
So
parent
like through
know.
PTO or booster club is what
Yeah,
you're,
something like that,
Booster.
that,
well, I'm just saying.
Wow.
Parent.
yeah.
So, okay, we're gonna figure out a way
What was that about?
to have
Booster,
book looks as well as maybe
Booster
some
club
other ones,
ones,
because I think there are
Something
other
to,
ones.
you see where my emphasis is I want a parent to
totally-
decide.
yeah.
well, it needs to,
Totally
Teachers
agree.
have
it can't
guardrails,
stop with the
which is
teacher, it's
fine.
gotta,
Yeah.
like, we
Right.
need to.
Well, and that's part of the communication,
Yeah.
is asking parents to take a, here's the list, we're getting ready to study in
But
a
parents
couple
don't
But if they
have
don't
that
know how
website to check.
much.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I do- I do.
It's an eye
I do.
opener for parents,
do.
it really is, when.
But like, I think if you Google the book, it comes up, so like, I mean, I feel like when you.
But it doesn't, it's not the same way, I'm just
No.
telling you, it's just not the same.
When you read
It
the
has-
excerpts and then it's like, oh, well, he put his hand where, and this is his eighth grade. And
It's just really
common
helpful.
sense, they call it.
I go
Heavy
to
pen.
the
I'm like, well,
slip,
well, I get the
you know, the
details
slip
in the
page and go
excerpt.
straight to the
Right.
count
This is
first,
the age group.
and then I'll go back and I'll read the excerpt.
So it is helpful.
So we're
It
gonna,
is.
I agree, I'm not disagreeing with any of the.
And I
values.
understand
might
what your,
be
you know,
reputable
standpoint is, I
someday.
get it in regards to reputable, cause
I just feel like I'm
so
the
new.
district employee who's supposed to tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not devaluing,
Yeah.
it's very, I've looked at it myself.
That's very
Um,
legitimate.
I just want the
We're gonna
parent to
figure
know
out
that.
a way to get it
Yes.
inside the parent communication
Yeah, somehow, to give them that so they
via
know
a
to
parent
look.
portal, a parent website, or a parent email. We're gonna figure out a way to get book looks plus other, I mean, I think there are other ones out there too that they can know about.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ones, there are really good ones out there, I have a whole bunch I know about, I looked through a lot of them, but yeah, I mean, the common sense, I hit a roadblock every time I use it.
Oh,
I know,
okay, I did not,
I know.
like I said,
So I'm wondering, but,
that's
you know, cause they
just,
can't have access to this stuff necessarily, I mean, maybe some of them are
I don't
open
know, I
to the
went to
public.
every one, it's just like,
All of these?
I didn't even log in
Okay, all of
to
these?
the,
I think common sense, I just got blocked out of 3
are you kidding me?
just right now.
Yeah, as a
On the
parent, maybe if you
school
say you're an educator, maybe it's different.
Maybe I did.
I'll try
Maybe I did
educator
create an
next.
account.
I'll be
Yeah.
on, I'll lie.
You have a school kind of here.
You do have a school
Yeah.
district email
You have a school district?
Yeah, I know, but I don't know
And
what
you are a
would that
district
even
employee.
work. I don't know,
in a roundabout way.
true.
Okay, we'll work on
We'll
that.
just figure it out.
Together, and we'll
She's
figure
We're
it out.
gonna
trying to
figure
design
out.
is like let parents, I think.
We're gonna
Well, it's
figure out a way.
it's both, it really is both, because it's gotta
Let him bring
filter
this.
through. That's all I have, I think.
Okay.
And you, I might even shut up for the rest of the meeting,
Oh, okay.
seriously.
Beloved.
All right,
Beloved.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the conversation.
thank you.
I really don't know, I just.
For that.
But I get it, but.
Oh, except for this one.
That's.
Okay.
Yeah, good.
All right,
Wait, I just need us to back up for a minute.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Because I gotta make
I
sure
know.
that I'm actually taking this stuff to a board meeting before the school year starts. So, I think for policy 361, we were good, I'm moving that one thing that I forgot to move up,
the audiovisual.
audio visual.
Uh-huh.
Now, on the procedure for 361, you see all the stuff in red. How do we feel about, we felt okay about the stuff in red, it sounds like.
Yeah,
In the little blurb before the list.
Yeah.
I'm going to say prepared selection aids for books, comma, classroom libraries, comma, and other materials.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm also going to put classroom libraries in that like very long list of all the things that are supplemental materials in the policy. So I'm adding that there.
and then,
I'm getting rid of that dash.
hey,
Um,
the booklooks.org, okay, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Should we put what it's for? No, or am I pushing it? Like, you know, excerpts or, no, profanity count?
We're gonna find book looks plus others that we're gonna figure out a parent communication for. We're gonna do it.
But are we putting it on this?
No.
I thought you said we were.
No, I wasn't gonna put it in the procedure.
You're like, no.
I was like, no, I was gonna put it in the procedure, but we were going to create, so Nina was talking about in that parent communication that goes out to say, here's the list with the disclaimers, a way for parents to know their options as resources beyond the options in there.
But I thought you said that's not the hill you're gonna die on, you will.
If you want it in there, I'm gonna put it in there.
Alright, I want it in there.
If this committee votes
Oh, sorry.
to put it in there, it's going in there. That's,
I
like
vote.
said, okay,
I vote, we all, do we want now, or?
no, we can do it at the end, I'm gonna get just all my notes
Alright,
together and
okay.
Can I
make
ask
sure.
one more question on the front page? Representative bring and balanced viewpoints on issues of interest and book genres, which I totally agree with. I guess one of the concerns that I had as a parent was, I got a list of books for my 7th grader or 8th grader, and like, they were all like 2000, like none of them were written,
Classics.
like there was no
True.
classics on there. And I mean, I don't wanna like have to call out and say, please include a classic piece of literature, but, and again, maybe some of these books that are being written now in 50 years are gonna be classic pieces of literature, but as a parent, I would like my child to be, exposed to something that may be considered a classic. I mean, they were talking about, in 7th grade, it was like the unit was on like teen angst or so, it was like it was about,
Like when something was like family.
conflict and what, I mean, there are a million books from back in the day that I read as a kid. And again, if there's 36 books, can we have like 4 of them that might be considered something that would be like a classical piece of literature? And again, I don't know how you define that, I don't know how you do that, but like something that
Yeah,
would be,
Like the book genre?
Treasure Island.
I mean, but is it a book genre now?
Yeah.
Like
Yes,
is classics like a book
Oh.
genre?
Great
Because we
Gatsby,
added
Pride
that.
and Prejudice.
Oh my
Because
gosh,
before it
she
just
runs
ended at
classes.
interest.
Yeah.
Riley's
And then
reading
we
the
had
Great,
Bauer
my,
and
my
That's what
13-year-old's
they
reading the
asked for.
Great
That's
Gatsby
what
right now.
I asked for it because I wanted a balance.
Yeah,
That
so I
was
guess
what you were
guess
saying is I,
maybe
that's
that
why I
people,
There's
as they're refining their book list, that
We can have
what
that conversation
what
for
we
sure.
were what maybe some were looking for is
Oh,
I mean, The
not just-
Giver, I think, is considered
Yeah.
a classic
Yeah, it's
now.
actually, I'm looking right at it.
Yeah.
That's not
I'm
really
looking right
that.
at The Giver.
No,
My
Lord of the
daughter just
Flies.
read the,
Lord
my
of the
daughter
Flies
read
is
The Giver in
horrifying.
7th grade.
Lord of Flies is a great book.
Lord of the Flies is horrifying.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
that is-
I can still
Yeah.
see
I should tell
what
Riley
Nick
about
did.
that one, yeah.
I can still remember that section, it's
Well, The Great
horrifying, and I
Gatsby's
wanna read it
great.
every day.
Really?
Actually, this is a pretty good book.
So I think it's a genre, I think
It
classic
is.
books are a genre.
It is.
I-
Anna
Yeah.
Green
It's
Gables
just-
is great.
That would be
Oh,
my,
yes.
you know,
Well,
Eventually Huckleberry Finn.
Okay.
and, you know, maybe some kids
We'll
are
get
gonna
there.
choose it, some
Giver.
kids
Somewhere
aren't, maybe
balance.
parents are gonna choose
Some
it for
balance.
their child,
Balance.
but,
yeah, cause I brought that up, to have a
Yeah.
balanced selection. Okay.
Then we're making sure that we have the actual include opt-out process in our communication section.
Mhm.
We're not gonna put it in the procedure, but we're gonna talk about permission slips, I think, as a whole district-wide.
We're,
Mhm.
yeah, just.
That's good.
Because it's in like 3
Yeah,
policies
Anna Green Gables.
or procedures.
Oh, yeah.
And then we will come back to voting
As a
on
whole
moving these
collection.
forward.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure I caught it, 'cause
Oh.
I think I got a little distracted,
Okay, yeah,
I got a lot distracted.
yeah, that was it, okay,
Alright.
alright,
We'll
I
come back
appreciate
to being official and moving them forward.
Hamlet.
Last meeting was will and shall, and this meeting is book.
Yeah.
No, they're good conversations,
Oh,
I
yeah.
learned.
Okay,
alright.
Okay.
alright, let's close it out.
That's the only really handout I wrote a lot on, so I'm just
Okay.
saying.
Procedure, I don't know, just a second.
Okay. Policy 871.
Those are up there.
I have
Okay,
no-
policy 871.
I don't know.
Who knows what I did with it? Alright. I got all mixed up here. Challenges. Oh, I didn't do anything but change the wheel. Oh, they were already rolled those. Never
Yeah,
mind.
it was
I didn't do
pretty-
anything.
Easy.
And a may to a can.
Yes, I think.
Oh, I'm reading the procedure, I'm sorry.
The policy, there's not
Right,
much.
but
No.
policy, yeah.
There's not
Okay,
much
yeah,
in
so
there.
nothing happened.
No,
Nothing happened.
Alright,
Of any merit.
okay.
Nothing of any merit happened there, so that one is the easy one. Policy's easy. Challenge. Actually, I don't think we did a whole lot with challenge either.
No.
It was,
No, it was really good.
I changed it to,
And there was a may that went to a can.
just will.
I changed it to will, and then, I
think that
took,
was your request.
you can't see that I moved it, but the paragraphs that's like really red, that's just making it more clear that parents don't have to follow this
Yes,
for
Love
just their own kid.
yeah.
Yep.
That's
You know,
great.
it's just making it more clear, cause there was a little confusion with the library stuff too. So parents and guardians can always request their child not have access to any specific supplemental materials. They do not need to go through this process.
Right.
This is only if they think it rises to the level that they actually want it completely
Community-wide.
removed from the whole class, the whole district, whatever.
Good.
So we just wanna make it a little more clear, because if you didn't read selection and you only read challenge, you might think you have to do more work. And so I just wanted to make it more clear, it says it in the policy too. So I think that, I don't wanna say it was a substance change, that was just to make it more clear.
Yeah, the little business after occur, there's something going on there. Just so you know.
Where?
It's like a dash,
It's a red
colon,
mark.
period with a dash.
Well, there used to be a period there, it's a strikeout of the period
Oh,
and then
gotcha.
adding a colon.
Gotcha.
Cause it's like the following,
It was really
it
hard.
says the following.
Yeah.
So I made it a colon instead of a
Okay,
period.
gotcha.
Punctuation is hard in strike through and read.
Yeah,
So I don't think anything else changed there. And this is where we kinda stole some of the stuff from the library challenges, but we immensely condensed it down to the second step being the final end with this committee.
Yes,
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
But I
yes,
didn't
I
change
agree,
Looks good.
well done.
Alright, so my Then we just have two. Okay. Policy 871 Exhibit A, I didn't make any changes since our last meeting. And once again, we're using the same form. And just so you know, we created this form for library book challenges and we wanted one thing. So that we're getting everything we want from the challenger, right away, and they understand their role and they're giving us everything we need. And then it's more organized. And then you have a document that you can talk
I
about.
have to talk about it, okay.
That's
So
yours.
in the policy and procedure previously, there was a supplemental material review form, which, let's be honest, was not being used. And so I played with it, I'm like, I don't like this, there's a part of me that is worried that it's, when Leah and I talked about going from 0 to 25 and figuring out if that solves our issue before we go to 0 to, like, this feels like going from 0 to 100 because now more people are signing off. But, so what I did do was take the form that was there and try to come up with something, for at least a starting point of a conversation that could be used and whether we decide it should be used. That's open for conversation, but it incorporates getting a little more focused on what's your intended use. And having some rating discussion, at least thought around some pieces. Some of these come from our curriculum review documentation, where you recommend using this, and then a chain of I'm requesting this, and then there's approval at a building level, and then because supplemental materials can be beyond books, it can be intervention kits, it can be sets of books, it could be weekly reader that we purchase every week, for a year, or it can be software, et cetera. There's
Would
a place for-
audiovisual fall under this then too?
Not audiovisual in the sense of like the movie permission, but it could be,
Audio CD is listed.
Well,
I
but it
think
should be a
with a-
criteria to be used though.
I don't think it's a major motion picture, I think it would be like, they make like educational videos.
right,
It wouldn't be like a movie you could see in the movie theater,
Okay.
because that's going through 360.
Yeah.
right,
This would be, we all have them.
right, so like
the video that comes with the curriculum, that,
you purchase
you pop in the VCR.
and like a CD or a DVD or something like that. So I do think this gets a little, part of my concern with this is like every book that a teacher puts in the classroom library can't manage that with that, like, will be in paperwork for forever. That's my concern with going for this as a first step. If after a review, like we need
A tool.
a tool to tighten up a little more, this could be, in my mind, the next step. But I'm definitely open to feedback. The more I wrestled with this, the
So I was
more,
thinking too, their money is coming out of a department budget
or a building budget.
or a building budget. So is this form triggered by the department chair, the principal? Because what they're asking for, they think is more than just a book. It is
It's-
something of more substance that should maybe go through this bigger vetting process than just, I'm buying this one thing versus I'm buying a whole kit or a whole, like 30 classroom set. Like maybe they're the first.
Could be, definitely I would intend this for something that is used over a long term. It's not that one newspaper article that we used as an example, and it's something that has a cost behind it. It's not a website that I'm looking up and wanting to use. But I'm still on the fence, so. There's lots of feedback.
So I like this for the general use of, audio, kids, whatnot. I personally think there should be another one for the books. Because I don't like that criteria where this is so vague, where it says age and grade level appropriateness.
Right.
I mean, I like the old one and some of the categories there, free of offensive, questionable content, developmentally appropriate for your bias. That I think should be a little bit more explicit if we're gonna scrutinize books. And I think that would be feasible if we end up scaling down the book list for students, like, let's just say 10, they can easily do that, check, with a book.
So purchasing for the use of supplemental curriculum, not
Correct.
classroom library.
No,
Okay,
no,
perfect.
not just curriculum.
Yes, I would agree with
And
that.
I just think that should be scrutinized more, and I think that should have a paper trail. Because in the end, because again, I know that they weren't using it, because when I met with Corey Gal, I asked him, I said, I pulled this up, exhibit C, I go, so do you have actually
Yeah, they just had that
paper
tool, we
trail?
know.
And that's when he said to me, they didn't use it.
So these don't go to the full board at all.
No,
Under
or,
procedure.
so, okay, so we can
So
play around with this a little bit.
These procedures I usually do at least bring to the full board in the discussion. When we take action, it's just the policy. But on significant procedures, I like to at least, I mean, we did with all the other ones.
Mhm.
You know, like we'll attach them to the full board as discussion. Action will just be the policies, so we can bring this back to committee next time.
So I like it this for generic,
Okay, great.
you know what I mean, but for the
Mhm.
supplemental curriculum, for like ELA,
We get something
book
different.
list,
Okay.
I think that's important to have
Okay.
just a little bit more.
Like
So then
something
this
that's off
also,
the policy.
you know, also validates and shows that the teacher actually did
Mhm.
evaluate it, so it just is just a
I
confirmation.
do like how it brings them through that thought process
So
of
we're
like,
like, oh, you did
oh,
actually
yeah,
evaluate,
that,
yeah, you did, you know.
yeah.
Does that happen with the library selections in the library? Like if a book is purchased, like, okay, we've got all the books we have in the library, tomorrow someone is gonna purchase 3 more books, are they
They
checking
don't,
off?
they don't purchase books like that, they purchase them in large quantities.
Bulk.
So we don't have it in the library.
Library also has our least scrutiny.
Mhm.
So
But that was
This is
that,
our-
Like a separate
that
one.
This is
thing
our
was-
middle curriculum is our high.
but that guide was tooled in, remember, with the supplemental and the library, and it was all
But
convoluted.
ours was always supplemental.
I do like
Yeah,
that.
Right,
this form
but I mean, it was all
always-
convoluted with
Yeah.
library, so you, people, it was not clear
Yeah,
to even use it, I
Well, it
think.
wasn't even.
Yeah, right, it
So-
was,
that's why we did feel it was better to have library be its own, supplemental be its own, and curriculum be its own, because they all have different
Standards and
things that
criteria.
apply to them, and it was kind of a mess
yeah,
before. And it's easier for us to roll things out when they're very specific and clear to the topic.
yeah, the policy, yeah, I think so.
So if we can put it
I think it
in-
should be shown,
Yeah,
all this should be shown in
Yeah, we're
Watsy.
gonna be showing them.
We're setting it up, and I
Yeah.
think not very many districts
No,
have done that.
nuh-uh.
Whether, I think
They're
they've
not
already
doing
done
this.
that, I betcha.
Oh, we got asked for our policies by a lot of districts.
Oh, really?
Oh,
They're public, they're out there, there's no copyright,
Everybody was
Leah and
watching.
Nina's work.
Yeah. I wanna watch that board
Hey,
meeting.
I asked a lot of
I saw
questions.
Leah give her a round of applause.
She's like, all right, I'll throw that in there
Give me
too.
that.
Chris gave us a lot of things to put in there.
You won't look at me when you say that. Oh,
Well,
come
we did it.
on,
We
it
did
was
it
good
though.
work.
You gave me all your stuff, I passed on all the
You guys were
supplemental stuff.
formulating, so I was just like
Well,
the,
Chris kept us in line and asked a lot of good questions.
okay, all
And
right,
a lot of them made
I appreciate
a lot of them made their way in.
Yeah.
But this was really her moment, supplemental is her moment.
Well, Leah's just a little shaken
Oh,
because
stop.
I sent her a few.
You might
We
have
just
to
need
say
something to
really
Google for
I
us.
sent her a few Google
Decline,
forms just to,
decline.
one of them said, Microsoft doesn't have this in a Google form.
In a Google form, nice, I like it.
Okay, so yeah, I think that if we can have different criteria for just books,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I think that makes more sense, that
Yeah.
criteria
We'll bring that.
didn't fit well with just general materials. So I think
having a separate one for the
perfect,
books is a
I
good
think we can do that.
We can bring it back to the next one.
Okay,
Cause we don't need that to go to the full board, cause I would like to go to the full board, I think it's the 14th.
Yeah.
okay. Good, I'll have something to talk about.
Because, I mean,
Oh,
This
well,
is
you
gonna
can
be
talk about it,
tight.
I can't.
so I'm just telling you, this is gonna be tight.
I'm nervous about the implementation
Amongst
of this
yourselves.
at the beginning
Can't
of the
fight.
year and rolling this out by teachers.
So there's a lot of you here,
Okay,
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have to have 2 books?
so
in?
so could we do discussion and action? on
Mhm.
August 14th.
You know me,
Because
work smarter, not
August
harder.
28th, like staff is already there.
Yeah.
And
That'd be
literally, we have this baby window.
I know, I don't know how we're gonna do it.
We're gonna do it.
Haven't we done a lot, most of them?
No, for us to roll it out.
Oh.
So like if Lee waits.
Well, I mean,
Big
I think it should be like, you know, I know it's not gonna be.
It is, but it's like you're saying,
I
this
feel
is
like
what we're
5 years
doing, and
ago
it's not like it has to be
I wouldn't expect things to just like, you know, one,
overnight.
I would never expect that. Do you guys expect that?
No,
Like what,
they're not even in
overnight,
their classrooms right
schoolroom flip, classroom flip, you know,
I mean, but
of
just
all
like,
the
this is
material
what we're
and,
doing
Yeah,
now,
this is-
so,
oh, we
this
won't
is
talk
what's
about
going
eighth grade.
right.
So I'm gonna make these changes probably Monday or Tuesday, depending on what happens to Monday. And then I think I'm gonna send them to all the board members
Mm-hmm.
next week and give them the heads up that we're looking to go discussion action on the 14th. And that gives them like 2 weeks to look at
I
it.
like it.
So that you're not just, so that the board members who weren't a part of this committee, I'm not gonna say to everybody, but like, they've had 2 weeks then,
Right.
so they're not being asked to read it like over a weekend. You know, they only get a couple days or something. I'm gonna give it to all of you early, and that way we can have whatever discussion we really need to have.
Mm-hmm.
But since 5 of you are already here, we could definitely use before the 28th.
Okay.
When
To
we
roll
talk
it
about phasing things and,
Yeah.
I mean, what's your take on that, Amy?
I think what we'll be able to phase in is the communication expectation. I think
Okay.
that'll be able to happen pretty quickly. The
Okay.
books, reviewing the books themselves that are currently there is going to take this whole school year.
Yeah,
Because we don't want
classroom?
to
Like
purchase.
classroom libraries,
Oh, okay, yeah.
all that
Well,
stuff.
that's the supplemental,
Well,
like the
the
actual
supplemental materials, because I don't have any
'Cause
other
of
books
their
to
actual
give
material.
them. And the other
Yeah,
thing that's
they don't
happening
have
at
to
this
buy it.
time is they are
planning.
planning and will be looking at our curriculum this year. So when I purchase new books to replace the ones that we need to take off the list, I've got to make sure that they fill the needs that we have with our standards at those grade levels.
But we
So-
don't, I mean, I'm going back to
So
my
do you
example,
need to fulfill with 36 books?
Right,
That's my
per
question.
unit,
So
Per unit?
that's
You
the
see what I'm
conversation that I need to have
yeah,
with those
so
teachers.
I won't even, yeah.
Right, if they
So-
are good with 20 and that, you know,
That's
So,
sausage,
and they have
I was
enough of
telling
those,
that's
but yeah,
sausage
so
making.
those
I
are
won't
those
tell-
are
I won't
things.
tell you how to do that.
And to
Yeah.
have that conversation with them, the 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st is gonna be tight for them then to turn around and start teaching
Exactly.
on the
Right.
fifth.
So I don't wanna stress them out and put them in a bad situation, but
That's
we
not
need to
the
put a
expectation I
microscope on
have.
this stuff,
but
you know,
100%.
and
Yeah.
start
I totally agree.
getting things
Start with unit 1. I mean, I know,
Yeah.
right? Like,
right.
Hey,
I
if you,
mean,
if,
true.
you know, you don't have to look at second semester or on the first day
Right.
of school, like,
I think we can look at
What
the
we
list, your group, you know, the lists are gonna be looked at, but then we're asking them to send them out right away. So we also need to tell them that right away, because the semester starts like the 5th or something like that.
Well, I mean, if they're sending out information about their books, they need to know about their books, you know, and say, just so you know,
You know, I
are they
mean,
gonna put a
they need
disclaimer on all
time
of
to
it?
take the list,
Yeah.
maybe decide if they wanna keep everything on the list or not, and then they're gonna have to write a disclaimer.
Yeah,
So they are gonna need to do some work.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna have to create the email, and we're gonna
Gotcha.
have to work on some of the language to parents.
yeah,
So there is work to be done
True.
in that week before school starts, and so we just wanna make sure we have enough time. And
supporting them.
like I said, we wanna
I
make
agree.
realistic
Yeah,
promises.
realistic.
Right.
I'm gonna probably say that everyone's not gonna be 100% happy
Mhm.
this
Change is
semester.
hard,
This semester.
Yeah.
So over the course of this year, we will work diligently to be living in this as fully as possible.
okay,
But it probably won't be fully implemented on day one, but it will be as we work through the year. You know, this is a substantial change with, quite honestly, resources that are already there with not a lot of replacement resources. So
gotcha.
yeah, we gotta look through those things, we'll do the best we can on getting as close as possible. But realistically, we're gonna get as close as we can, and every time we're actively engaged in it, it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
It just might not be September 5th is
No.
perfect.
No, I
And-
totally get it,
Bottom line is, anytime a parent is aware of a book that they don't want their child to read, they absolutely have the right to communicate that to the teacher and we will address it.
Yes.
So regardless of where we are, that is always the right of the parent,
Yeah.
and we respect that.
Yeah.
So.
But I also wanna, make sure that we do our due diligence and educating the
them.
parents and informing them to
And
make that
that's
decision,
part
because a
of
lot of times,
And that's gonna happen
Part of
right
the
away.
plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
the
part of it.
communication's gonna happen right away.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, to
that's
me,
important.
that is the first thing that's gonna happen. Culling through entire classroom libraries will take longer.
Yeah, I'm,
Taking that list, vetting that list, disclaiming that list, and emailing that list out is happening. That's happening.
Right,
Yeah.
100%,
Yeah.
that is,
Okay. All right.
can we circle back, maybe at the end of the semester, just get us, an update and seeing how that was implemented, or even having some teachers come in and give us their feedback as to what they,
So why don't we
What's it
schedule
called?
it for January?
Would that be in policy or curriculum?
Oh, we have
It'd
like a
become-
month,
I think it would be in
scheduled a
curriculum
month
to
out.
start, so,
Because we're
And
like
I
to circle
do-
back people.
right, we do.
We are,
And I-
we're
but I
planning to
wanna
circle
hear
back.
from them also too, because they live in it.
I think
They
that'll
do,
be-
and their voice has not been a part of this process,
That's
so I
right.
do
Yeah.
think that's really important.
So,
I agree.
I'm just saying this could maybe be kept to the
Well,
curriculum committee
here's
for
what I was
their
gonna say,
check-in.
I do believe we
That's okay
have,
by me.
we
I don't
already
vote.
have on the calendar for curriculum committee, either in December or January, a checkup on where we are with our ELA standards, because that will be
Then
a
we'll
year
tie
since
that
we adopted that.
That'd be great.
So I do believe that will be the ideal time to connect that, because that's where
Yeah.
the work of new books will come in, because, or
I
new
like it.
curriculum, because they
It
have
goes
decided new
hand in hand
standards.
almost.
Yeah,
You're
like
right.
So great.
Well done.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Well,
That sounds
I
like a
am
great
already
place
ahead
to
of
have
the-
that.
That was like a
masterpiece.
Or well orchestrated.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
do you want the book looks or not? I'm not arguing with you anymore. If you three want it in, I'm putting it in.
I do.
I can go either way, it doesn't matter, for me, again, my emphasis is just making sure that we can actually convey that to the parents. I want parents to know that they have that as a resource to look, because otherwise they wouldn't even know. Like, you can't really just pull up a book and know what the word count is. And so somehow informing the parent, that's what a priority for me.
Okay.
Who else is on?
So I want it.
So, what's your opinion? I can go either way, I don't care.
Make a motion for it.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, just because it's on there doesn't mean they're gonna use it, so I could go either way.
So yes or no?
I say yes.
Okay. Well,
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you.
So there's
make a
4 of
motion
you. So I
Oh,
need 3 of you.
oh, sorry.
Do I have 3 yeses?
That's right, we were combined.
I'm sorry, what?
Are you voting yes or no on book looks, making its way into the procedure?
I can go either way,
On the
whatever the
procedure,
majority
the
is, I'll go
listing
that
of
way.
the reference, the sources.
Right, no, I understand what the question is.
Yeah.
Do you
I
want
just
it in the
didn't,
policy?
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, the
Or
procedure.
the procedure?
Yeah.
Or do you, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, this is,
Wait,
it's
well, I wanna
it's tough
vote.
because I
So
think
so
it's
who's
that way.
who's supposed to vote on that, policy or procedure?
Both.
I'm sorry, it goes in the procedure. It's not in
But
the
it goes in the
policy.
yeah.
Right, but I'm saying
so-
who can vote on it, the policy committee or the
Both.
curriculum
Both.
committee?
We're joint,
Okay,
You're joint,
so
You're all
it's
voting.
4 of us.
except
We're
Jennifer.
conjoined.
Yeah,
She has no vote,
I have
no
no
winking, no nodding.
No, teasing.
So I will go with majority, it doesn't matter to me, my priority is I want parents to know that
So
site,
the-
Of course.
their
To
record.
tighten things up with
That's
Roberts,
not written in
someone make
stone.
a motion and then there's a second
Okay.
and then discussion and same sort of deal.
make a
Alright.
motion.
You should make a motion.
You make
You should
your
probably
motion.
I'll
make
make
a
a motion
motion.
to have book looks in the procedure listing under reference sources.
I'll second.
And discussion.
Okay,
Sarah.
and I think that I'm in between two, I think educating the parents is definitely more important than having it in policy, but I also
No,
am not
procedure.
against the
Procedure.
procedure,
Procedure.
but I'm not against having it on the list, so
I'm taking a roll.
So-
I've got Chris as a yes.
Once the discussion is done,
Yep.
then just vote and
Yep.
we'll be done.
So I have Chris as a yes.
Alright, so discussion's done, so we
All in
so
favor?
all in
Wait,
favor?
Yeah, was it yes or no, I don't know.
Well,
Oh, we
Well,
gotta
gonna
vote.
vote.
There's-
we have to vote.
there's
I'm gonna
four.
go roll call, Chris.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
And then I'm gonna go Sarah,
Thank you.
because you're sitting over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say yes, I don't think it does any
Just
harm
yes.
being on the list, it's included, may
That
or
was
may not
discussion.
use.
That was discussion.
That's okay, you
So-
shouldn't have a thought.
Okay, sorry.
No, Joel?
Chris, I
Yes.
just backed you up.
Well,
And
I'm just saying.
I don't care.
You can abstain
I
right
can
now.
abstain, cause it doesn't matter, it's already a majority rule, so I don't.
Okay,
Alright, so it's in.
I'm putting it in. I'm gonna do it, I don't know, we'll see how excited I am this weekend to work,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
it'll be
and I'll
early
just
next week.
interject for a second, it's always my preference to use Roberts,
Yeah,
even
Okay.
even in committee.
alright,
That-
that's fine.
So that's
Yeah.
why I throw it out there with, I mean, it's clear, it's
It's,
definitive,
yeah, that's true.
and it's set, and we, you know, we have it down, we move to the next item.
And then you're gonna, criteria,
So
we're
we're,
gonna come back.
Yeah,
We're
we'll
gonna
come back
bring
to
that
yeah, I'll
back
bring
in
that back. I
August.
appreciate all the feedback,
Yeah.
because that was a iffy one for me.
And
and quite honestly, that could also be curriculum. You can come to it. I'm just like, I don't know if we're gonna be joint next time,
No, I don't know that we need to.
so.
We
we
have-
can hash
we
this
can-
out in
I
curriculum.
was gonna say,
I
I
think
can
you
bring
can
it to
just show it
the
to
curriculum
curriculum.
meeting on the 9th. I think our meeting is on the 9th, the 8th or the 9th.
It's at
Because-
5:30.
Cause that's
5:30 on the
something you
on a
guys can
Wednesday.
kind of just do yourselves, it doesn't need
I'll
to go
just-
through anything other than your committee.
Bye.
I will bring that back
So-
on the 9th.
I'm gonna send this all
No, I
out,
have it at 2:00.
we're taking this all out.
That was a Wednesday?
Yeah,
We're
it's at
doing
2.
5:30 on that Wednesday, right? I think we had it, but we
I have
messed
it
up on the
official
time.
as 2:00.
Okay. I will.
I can't do 2:00 on Wednesday, so
Yeah,
I know I wouldn't agree to that.
Let's
I
see.
don't know how we get that.
I had it 5:30 in the minutes, I read it,
What
cause
date
I had it
is
in my planner as 2:00, but I read it in the minutes on
if
the
we're bringing-
board
If we're bringing
agenda.
it back
It's
to
at 5:30.
curriculum, then you don't have to be here for that policy.
I have,
Unless you
I think
want
we
to.
had to move it, so it's at 2:00 on the 9th. Is
Yeah,
what's on
see,
the
I
calendar.
won't- The board minutes, the board agenda said 5:30, and I work on Wednesdays, so I don't know.
But I think it was
Agreed to
decided that you weren't going to be at that one?
No.
No, that was me on the last.
Well, it was gonna be me on the next one.
I know, but I thought it was 5:30 for some reason too. And I even had it in my plan, I know I was between 2 and 5:30, and then I went back and looked at the board minute agenda, and I'm like, oh, it says 5:30 there, so
5:30, I know we have policy.
on the same
I'm
day.
gonna have to change that one on August 22nd.
We have it on August 17th,
Oh.
Policy 17.
policy is the 17th.
Oh, you know what, I have too many of them on my calendar, okay, let me delete this one. We were moving around, this event, okay, so it's the 17th, 5:30?
Yeah, policy, so I don't think we're gonna be joint, so true policy people, we're meeting on the 17th. We're not going to be joint with anybody,
Correct.
okay.
And then, Chris, you want me to move,
If you can,
okay,
The 9th?
so on the 9th, okay.
the
Moving
Wednesday.
it to 5:30?
I gotta check with my people who are coming to present.
Who do you have?
So, I have 2 principals coming,
Oh,
well, so, and somebody else,
oh, it's the elementary,
right, so, we'll work on that
sorry
on the
about
9th.
that.
That's okay.
I mean, I can see if I can take out board. I don't,
Can you also add me to that invite too?
well, because I think we had
You're on
Tuesday,
it and you declined it.
Oh, because of 2 o'clock.
I think we had Tuesday and then we swapped it, and I didn't think time wise.
So we can push it to 5:30, then that means you are.
I would join too then, yeah.
If they're available.
Correct, correct.
So, I mean, we can push it either way, I was really trying to get them in before the school year
So
starts.
let's keep it
know.
the same day, but at 5:30,
Okay,
I think we can do that, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then
5:30.
we'll add you to the 5:30.
Correct.
Okay.
Next item?
I think we're good.
Okay, so the next item, I just wanted to quickly tell you an update. So we're just gonna be policy, so I'm gonna be working on the orange ones of our master list. I have some extras in here.
Yep.
I have an extra.
Yep, it's the overview.
Oh, no, she has.
Yes, I have it.
Sounds like, no, Nina has it. Okay.
I have it.
So I was going to work on the orange that say the superintendent in our 100 series.
Is this the chain of command one?
Well, I wanna look at seeing what WASB has.
Okay.
So I'm gonna look at what WASB has for 153, 133, and 185 are orange ones.
You're talking about 153?
The orange ones that she
The
has.
orange ones.
Yep.
So I'm gonna look and see what WASB has
Okay,
for us to look at.
okay.
I mean, I'll send you everything beforehand, but I just wanna look at I have not looked at what they have yet. So I wanna look at those, just because they're old and they might just be super easy not
Quick wins.
exciting.
Yeah, most are pretty straightforward, so like in my incapacitation, there should be a policy and a follow through for incapacitation of the superintendent.
Oh,
It's
okay.
pretty common.
I don't know if that's what that one had on it,
Somehow
but.
at administrative relations.
We put some of it into like 155, I think it was. But some of it is still hanging out there, so I just wanna see what they have.
Okay.
We may or may not be doing anything with them, but I just I wanna start touching all of our orange. And those are kinda in my bucket, so I wanna touch the ones that are in my bucket. And then, oh god, where are they? I asked Troy to bring his too, because he doesn't have a committee, you know, so I,
Yeah.
okay, I just met with him.
He talked to me about his policies, it was acceptable use or
Oh, here, 522.7. Which is pretty much the staff acceptable use.
yeah, he talked to me about it.
And then
That will come to just policy.
that comes to just policy because he doesn't have a committee.
He briefed me over acceptable use.
Okay, he had another one.
Yeah, he did, it was
Oh, here.
522.7.
No, and he has 825, which is
Here.
email archiving and retention.
Oh.
Yeah, yes, 522, which is really staff acceptable use, that's what I'm used to calling it.
Yeah,
This is really long. Yeah.
what else did he have?
He has 825, email archiving and retention.
Yes.
So he's gonna be bringing those, and then I haven't reached out to Jason yet and Brian Heimer, but I was gonna see if they would take 837, 835, and 881. And then I was gonna talk to I think Laura has one she actually wants to work on, but I was gonna see if she had like maybe 2 or 3 that she wanted to bring.
I think we put it on the back burner when I was on policy the year prior about, what was it?
She was doing something with medication with the nurses, I think.
Communicable.
Yes, but then it was under communicable disease. I think I gave it to her. That was like way back when. We just dust that off.
Okay.
Because we put that
I
on the
mean,
back burner
communicable
because
disease,
at that time, we didn't have a medical advisor.
Hmm.
I remember that, and then now I'm bringing it, so I can reach out to
so
her.
we did communicable diseases in 2020. I
Yeah,
think the medication administration one listed
Is it the one?
the medical person.
but I think we had to put that on the back burner, because we need to make changes to some of that, because now that with COVID and all that.
Reach out to
Asking stuff?
Laura?
Okay.
Laura,
Oh,
because that was way back when.
What policy am I?
It's
I can't remember, I gotta go
453.4.
back, it's on a
What is it?
pile on my desk somehow.
53.4.
Because it was at that time, for
When is it gonna be
COVID,
brought
and
up?
then now, I gotta remember back what I did.
When are we bringing it here?
Oh, we're shooting for August 17th.
August 17th.
That doesn't have to be immediate,
It's not
I'm
an
just
orange
trying
one.
to, I'm just remembering what was put on the back burner.
I think August 17th is fine. I actually don't think there's that much to do with communicable disease, cause I did
Yeah.
look at it recently.
Is there COVID stuff in
And
it?
the
Yeah.
COVID stuff is gone.
Oh.
As
No,
a,
but there was,
it does list it as a possible communicable disease, but it's in a list with like whooping cough and
yeah,
Whooping
like
cough,
some other thing,
yes.
some other things.
That's exactly what it is.
so let me, I'm gonna look back at I have the
There
folder
might be
for
a
it.
bigger attachment.
I
Is
gotta
there a
remember, it
masking
was,
thing on there or?
there's something that we need to,
Well,
there's something.
it does say that at some point, the health department may require masking, but it's for like a lot of things.
Yeah.
It's once it hits,
But it was like the superintendent making the decision or something like that, and it was just, let me go back and read it, and I'll reach out to you. So there was just something there that I just.
I think we
gotta-
used to have a subsection, like how this is point 4. I think we used to have one that was very specific to COVID that we deleted.
Oh,
Yeah, I gotta go
So,
back and look, okay.
I'll
So you-
try to figure it out too.
deleted in August?
No, the communicable disease was last looked at in August of 2020, but I feel like we had like a 453 point something else
Oh,
that was
gotcha.
Oh, it was
COVID.
way back when, and I remember that.
And I feel like
again.
our communicable disease one
So I
is still like the old one.
Gotcha.
just emailed Laura, tied in Leah about 453.4 for review, suggestions and recommendations for the August 17th policy committee meeting.
Okay. And I'll,
So that's
I'll go back and look at my, folder on it, because I remember when I brought it up, I remember she said that I would prefer waiting, because at that point, we didn't secure a medical advisory.
Well, that was probably back in like January, February.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. So
Because
let me-
we put those on the back burner and then we went to library in February.
Correct.
So, I mean, it probably was
So-
January. And I know we have a medical advisor.
Yeah.
You
And so
told me.
that's where, I'll touch base, again, I'm just bringing up stuff that we
Yeah.
put on the back burner.
Sure.
Oh, we can bring that one forward. So I was gonna start with people who don't have a committee.
Okay.
Coming to our committee right away. And then I talked to, well, we've got stuff in our works coming up later anyway, that'll go through curriculum, you know. And if we wanna be joint again, that's fine. But then like Caitlin has some that should go through finance, you know what I mean, like, so I'm just kind of, and I told Amy too, so Amy, Swanson and Caitlin, hey, can you pick like 2 or 3 to take through your committee? So then by September, you're coming to me, you know, so we're kind of back, I think we're gonna be back more in the swing of things, probably maybe our more normal process. And then I did tell them, if you think it's very small changes, we can come right here and bypass committee, but if you're making something that feels like you got a lot of markings on it, you know, and it's not just like a word, like I change one word everywhere, you know, if you think you're making actual substantial changes, take it
So
through
we'll
your
wanna see
committee.
that.
If you feel like hasn't been looked at since 1993, but quite honestly, nothing's really changed that much, then let's just bring it through here.
I think we discussed
We-
that.
We
Make it
kind of
more
blessed
fluid.
that already
Yeah.
at our beginning.
Yep.
But now that we kind of wrapped up supplemental, I wanted to get back onto the list. And then
I cannot follow you.
curriculum is gonna take a little work
Yeah.
for us to get together, but for curriculum, which we know is next in the set of 3, phase 3, I think there's 4 policies that we will be putting into one.
Yeah.
Okay.
For all the subcomponents of curriculum.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. So that's our plan. And we're already meeting August 17th as policy.
Ready to adjourn?
Right.
Take a motion to adjourn,
I'll motion to adjourn.
Sarah,
Second.
Joel. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. 7:22.
in communication, she never does the I.
Thank you all.
You too.
I'm like, I always go I
Yeah.
quietly.
What was the adjournment time, 7:20?
7:22.
7:27? 7:22.
7:22.
Alright.
And I'm gonna excuse myself quickly, I'm gonna drive,
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna drive to Kevin, I'm gonna go to Kevin's house, so I'm gonna,
Should we turn this off?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. It's okay. I actually don't know